Hello, wrestling fans. We're back with another edition of the HighSpots.com shoot interview series. I want to welcome formerly known as Crash Holly, right down the street here in Salisbury. Thank you very much.
Salisbury.
Thank you very much for taking some time today and spend it with us.
Yes. Surrounded by a lot of masks here.
Yes, we're in the infamous mask room today.
Yeah, some good stuff here.
We always start off and ask how you get started in the wrestling business.
Okay. How I got started in the wrestling business was I started in 1989. I knew I wanted to wrestle probably about junior high, and I knew this. I was actually working at a liquor store stocking shelves. I had no idea about any wrestling schools. I was actually the only school that was in the Bay Area at the time was in Sacramento. It was Buzz Sawyer School, and I was 16 when I called there, and they were actually going to accept me. They're probably going to beat the fuck out of me because I heard a lot of stories about Buzz, so I'm probably glad I didn't go there. But then I was working at a liquor store, and someone said they knew a wrestling school, and it was Woody Farmer, and I never heard of Woody Farmer, and it was over in Hayward. And I went over there right when I turned 18. I went over there and signed up for it. So it was $2,000 for the school. It was run by Woody Farmer and Mae Young and Pepper Gomez, and that's kind of where I got my start.
What are your early memories of Pepper Gomez?
Pepper was cool. Like I said, Pepper and Woody, just total laid-back attitudes, really good. Actually, who did most of the teaching there was Shane Cody. He was Woody's son. He beat the fuck out of me. Beat the fuck out of every guys, much like a lot of schools out there. Or much like a lot of schools, you just get the crap kicked out of you, but that's just how wrestling schools are. But those guys are really cool. Mae Young was really cool, too. And Mae will stretch your ass, too. She's a tough woman.
How long did you train before you had your first match?
I went there, I think of the month, it was pretty much right after I turned 18. It was about a little under 6 months of training, and it was a cool deal when it started out. It was called Bay Area Wrestling, and it was on Sports Channel in the Bay Area, and it was good. It was run like a Memphis wrestling show, and it was a 1 hour show. I think we did once every week, every other week probably, and who came through there? The only person that came through there that I think did anything was Chris Jericho. So I've been trying to get a hold of that tape, just the tapes of the Bay Area. I've got one somewhere or two, but I'd like to get a hold of the Jericho one.
Remember your first match?
First match was against Boris Givenoff, who did some refereeing for WWF when they used to come there to the Bay Area, because when they used to come in the 1980s, they used to rotate between the Cow Palace and the Oakland Coliseum. So I'd always be first in line to get tickets for that. He did some refereeing for them part-time, but that's pretty much one of the him besides Shane in the ring. Pretty much Boris Givenoff is the one who kind of taught me a lot about the business and really trained me on things.
Who came up with your first gimmick?
The first gimmick, which as far as for...
I think it was Pearson.
Johnny Pearson? Okay, I came up with the name. They wanted me to be a baby face, so John's my middle name, so I took Johnny, and then I got Pearson from Drew Pearson of the Cowboys. I'm not a Cowboys fan. I actually hate the fucking Cowboys. I'm a Rams fan, When the Rams won the Super Bowl, everyone called me a bandwagoner, so I had to pull out all my Ram stuff, my Dickerson stuff, so I wasn't a bandwagoner. But I think Johnny Pearson just a total baby face name. To me, it sounded like one.
What'd you do for the, I guess about 4 or 5 years before you met up with All Pro Wrestling and people started hearing about you?
What I did there is I started with Woody. We were doing the TVs, and they didn't pay shit. I didn't give a fuck if they paid. I think actually when I was going through, they only got paid once. We did a show at the Newark Pavilion, and I think I got paid like $30 the entire time I was there. But I kept dislocating my shoulder. I was playing tackle football with some buddies, and I got hit in the shoulder, and it felt kind of weird. And then it got hit again. I dislocated it. And I don't know if you ever had a dislocated shoulder. If anyone's ever had one, the more you dislocate it, the easier it becomes to dislocate it. So I had to have surgery, and I was out for about a year. And when I came back, Woody's school was only going for a little while longer, and then he shut it down. He had a piano moving business, and that was his, the full-time job for him. Plus, he had the wrestling school at nighttime. So when Woody shut down, I didn't have anywhere to go because I didn't really know anybody. I knew this guy, actually, one of the guys at Woody's school was Jason... what is his name? Jason Styles, who still lives in California. He works for Kurt White for Big Time Wrestling. I think Jason's got a school. I kept in contact with him, and he told me about Paul Brown, guy who's been around since the fucking Stone Age, since the Ice Age, or probably the Last Supper. I think he might have been serving dinner at the Last Supper. So I went to Paul's. I worked for Paul rarely ever ran shows. He he did a show like once every 3 months. I just wasn't getting anywhere there. I wasn't doing anything. But I knew Mike Modest from Woody School because Jerry Monty, who worked for WWF as a job guy in the 80s, that's who Mike Modest started out with. Jerry and Woody, I don't think they ever got along too well because it was two different competing schools. So that's, I mean, I through there, through doing stuff with Paul Brown, I remembered, I forget how I got in contact with Mike Modest, you know, but that's how I kind of went from transition from the 89 throughout the years. I really wasn't doing much and getting anywhere. And then I went to All Pro Wrestling, I think it was 1996.
You mentioned Chris Jericho is the only guy that we would have probably heard of coming through there.
Yeah, Chris Jericho. Shane Cody's still working.
Mm-hmm.
The guy who broke me in, he's still working out there in California. He never went anywhere, did anything. Chris Jericho came through there. They used to do stuff with, let me think, a lot of the guys from Los Angeles. I can't think of the guy's name. There's a school in Jesse Hernandez runs a school in Los Angeles, and a lot of his guys used to drive up, but I don't think anybody ever went anywhere out of there.
So what about the early memories of All Pro Wrestling?
All Pro Wrestling was early memories. I remember, you know, I think I got in contact with Mike. Mike told me to come down there. I went down there and I was just, they probably had about maybe 20 guys, maybe 15 or 20 guys. And Roland Alexander, he knew who I was. They kind of wanted to give me a tryout for the school, you know, see what I know, because Roland likes to think he knows everything, but you know, truth be known, you'd actually have to get in the fucking ring to know everything and do stuff. So I agreed. I was cool with that. I got in the ring and I wrestled Matt Hyson, who's Spike Dudley. Okay, I had a match in front of all the boys. And, of course, when I got done with my match, you know, Roland picked apart everything I did wrong, which fundamentally I had some stuff wrong with me because I wasn't trained right and I hadn't been working, so I saw his point. But I guess that's Roland's way of breaking me down. So, you know, he did, you know, so I could he could point out what's wrong and I could improve on it. I didn't have to pay to go to a school. What I did do, Roland's little thing he has is you gotta pay gym dues. And Roland, when he talks, well, okay, you gotta pay gym dues. You want to go to my school, and that's what you gotta do. So Roland's a good thing because he charged everyone $25 or $30. It helps pay his rent. I didn't mind paying for that because it was a place to train. I drive over there. Actually, it was Roland's school was 2 blocks up from where Woody School is. I never knew about this, you know? So I drove over there, and if anyone's ever been in the Bay Area, driven over the San Mateo Bridge or any of the bridges, if you have to go in rush hour, you're fucked because it's the worst. I sat on the San Mateo Bridge, I don't know how many hours, you know, going there. If you're in rush hour traffic, it could be like an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours, just to get a couple miles. But I went over there every day before I got to work shows for Roland, and I practiced, not every day I didn't go over there. I went over there, I think, a couple times a week. I practiced a few times with Spike, and I practiced some of their other guys. So I know Roland likes to take credit for training the guys. If you go to his website, he says, well, these guys came out of the school, and it gives him credibility. Well, the truth is, Roland never gets in the ring to train. You know, it was Mike Modest doing the training, or Robert Thompson, or was the guy, Max Justice. Everyone was pretty much helping out everybody there to do stuff. So it was never Roland Alexander training. All Roland Alexander did was provide a ring and a place to train, but that he likes to think that gives him credit. Well, fuck, if I didn't have the ring, you would have never made it anywhere. That's like a fucking college saying, well, if you didn't go to college here, you could never become a doctor. So he liked to take credit for things that he really had nothing to do with.
So you mentioned Spike Dudley. What are some of the other guys that we would have heard of that were around those gyms, gym wars?
Gym wars was a great thing. It could have been a lot better in the sense that, you know, I know Beyond the Mat, I think it was Beyond the Mat, portrayed that as, you know, the guys are only wrestling in front of 100 or 100 and something people, you know, so they make it look like the guys aren't doing shit. What they don't actually see is that the guys, Robert Thompson or myself or Mike Modest or Donovan, there was a lot of talent there. You know, it was something to see because when we first started those shows, I think we did it like once, it was every other month, maybe once a month. And we didn't let people in for free. You know, then it starts to catch on a little bit where Roland wants to charge $5. Then he wants to charge $10. Then he wants to charge $15. Eventually gets 20, and then $25. So you get 100 or 120, maybe 30 people in there, $25 a head every 2 weeks. You're not paying to rent any building. That's not bad. It could have actually been something better because we had such a good following that the people up the street at the Armory, I think some of them came to watch the show and they wanted us to do the show at the Armory, which was great because there was one point, we were turning people away from coming to the show. It was a really good show. We had a good, strong following, and we had a lot of talent there. Dave Meltzer used to come watch the show. He'd always put the show over. And we could have moved up to the Armory, but Roland, the business genius that he is the Armory said, we just want concessions. That's all we care about. You guys can take the gate. And Roland's like, oh, fuck, no, they're not taking concession. It could have been good because I think we could have taken that 100 and some people and maybe doubled it, At least I think we could have done that, which would have been good to continue, guys, because the experience of working, I don't give a fuck if it's 5 or 100 people. The experience of working in front of people, you can't measure that. That's what you need. You can practice till you're blue in the face, but until you work in front of people and you're involved in storylines or angles, then you're really not going to get it. So you need that experience. So it's a shame that he fucked everything up in his big mouth, what he usually does anyway,
Would you say that your opinion of Roland represents what most of the guys thought of?
My opinion of Roland is that he's worse than he's portrayed in Beyond the Mat. That's not a true pictorial Roland. He's a scumbag. He's the worst image of a promoter that it could possibly be. He's very smart. He's very smart, like a car salesman. He'll sell you a bunch of shit that doesn't exist. If you go there, the average person is looking to enroll in a wrestling school, and you see the people that came out of that school, myself or Spike or Mike and Donovan or any of the guys, and if you actually saw the tapes, you saw these guys are trained really well because they were, but Roland's the person behind it, kind of like the Wizard of Oz. He's behind the curtain. He really has nothing to him other than the fact he has a building and a ring and a bunch of shit he's spewing out of his mouth, which is the reason why Mike and Donovan left, which is the reason. There's got to be something to it if me or Spike or those guys, a lot of the guys don't want to talk to Roland anymore. That's just got to tell you something about him,
And this is jumping ahead quite a bit.
Sure.
In the movie that Roland was, they said that he got 10% cut off of Modest's contract.
I don't think he did. Roland has a thing when you sign up for a school that, I'm sure there are schools out there like this. This is Roland being a businessman trying to make money off the boys, that if you get a contract in any major company, he gets 10%. Well, when I got my contract with WWF at the time, he didn't have the balls to ask me for 10% because I never signed anything to go to a school. I think he tried to get his 10 or 20% out of Vic Grimes. I don't think he ever did. And I don't think that would hold up in court anyway. It's a bunch of shit. It's kind of like the same theory. Like I said, college. If I go to college at NC State or a college here and I want to become a doctor, if I become a doctor, it's like the college trying to come back later saying, well, you owe us money. You're a doctor. Why don't you give us some money? You went to college here? What about us? We taught you. That's how Roland thinks. Just because you went there, he thinks you owe him something. But you don't owe Roland shit. And just like people in the business doesn't owe anybody anything. A lot of guys who have bitter attitudes or pissed off at the wrestling business or pissed off whatever, the business doesn't owe you anything.
So did Roland pay all the talent at these gym wars when he started drawing 100 people?
Here's how you got paid by Roland. If you took off after the show, you most likely wouldn't get paid. What Roland would do is he paid around, maybe 20 or 40 bucks, and then he bought everyone dinner afterwards. That was fine with most guys. That's fine with me. Fuck it, you have to stick around for that. But like I was saying, Roland he's worse than is portrayed in Beyond the Mat. He was pissed off actually when Beyond the Mat came off because he was ranting, raving. I can't believe they made me look that bad. Well, they didn't make you look bad. It's you. That's how you are. The fact that he wants money from the guys. Like when I started up in WWF and I started up there I think it was between the first 3 or 4 months, and I was doing really good. They were doing a show at, I forget where it was. Donovan Morgan calls me up. He says, can you work the show? I said, no, I can't work the show because they wouldn't let us work any shows. I said, but I'll come down and do an autograph session. I'll sell my gimmicks. So Donovan's like, that's cool. So I went down there. They probably had, I don't know, maybe 300 or 400 people. I did really good on gimmick sales. Roland never came and asked me himself, but he was telling the guys that I should give him a cut of some of my Polaroid and my 8x10 money. That just goes to show these scumbag. I think even when the Bushwhackers came in to do a show for him, I don't know how long ago it was, he wanted a cut of their money. You know, I don't understand how you can want a percentage of some guy's money or get pissed off. They may have started there. I know where I started, but Roland the kind of person too. Like Roland used to get on me all. Well, you know, you're gonna have to be more of a high flyer if you want to make it in this business. You're gonna have to be more of a high flyer. You know, I knew when I got up to the WWF, I did some flying at APW, not that much, but I don't think you have to. I didn't see when I was put with Bob Holly that I had to do high flying. You know, to me it wasn't necessary to get over or get Bob over or get what we needed to get over. So that's why I changed my style when I went there, because you don't have to do high flying to get over. Why do it? Why risk my neck? If the crowd's liking what I'm doing, I don't have to do anything. So that just proves that theory Roland doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about, because you'd actually have to be a wrestler and understand things than to have your shitty theories about stuff.
Let's talk about some of the positives of APW, because you guys had a lot of great matches there.
Yeah, I had a lot of great matches. It was positive. The positive thing about APW, which is different than any place I've ever been, is there wasn't so many politics per se. It was all the boys trying to have good matches for the sake of having good matches. There wasn't, that I seen, everybody got along for the most part. You know, yeah, you had guys you had Boom Boom Comedian, some guys who had their own thing, you know, but everybody got along, and man, everybody was just beating the fuck out of each other in the ring to make it look good, because we all like that Japanese style. We all started watching like All Japan and stuff like that, and that's where I really learned a lot of my psychology of how to put a match together and do things and rhyme and a reason of get to point A to point B of what to do. So the good thing about that school is everybody was for everybody in having a good match. There wasn't so much bullshit there that I've seen other places. There was obviously sometimes guys are getting a little fights and stuff would happen. That's going to happen anywhere. But it was a really good atmosphere. I really had a lot of good times there with a lot of the guys.
Who came up with Aaron O'Grady?
I came up with Aaron O'Grady. I actually came up with the Leprechaun Aaron O'Grady, which would have been a great fucking gimmick in the 80s. You know, because it's a total gimmick. I did decent in APW selling, you know, 8x10s and stuff like that. When I was hurt, I got hurt, I had this idea. I didn't have the money to do the costume, but actually it was not Paul Brown. It was one of Paul Brown's friends. I can't think of the name. Simon something was one of the managers for Paul Brown. I just had the Leprechaun. You know, I told Paul Brown about the idea, and I said, when I get the money, I want to do the gimmick. They came up with the name Aaron O'Grady. So I just kept the name from there. And then when I went to Roland's, I had all the gimmick bought. I had everything. And I showed Roland the costume. And he was, at first, he's like, hey, he wasn't too sure about it. And then eventually, when I went through his training to do stuff, he let me do it. And it was a total gimmicky gimmick, but it worked. It was cool. It was fun. It was different.
What would you say your proudest match, your proudest moment in APW was?
It's probably, God, I had a lot of good times there. It's obviously the match I had with Vic Grimes when I hit him with the car. I should have hit him harder, but you can't hurt Vic because he's such a fucking idiot. You know, Vic's kind of like, he's like Samoans. You can't hurt a Samoan. You cannot beat the fuck out of a Samoan. But Vic's so stupid, I don't think he realizes that shit hurts when you hit him, you know. But I think it's that match there, because that match got me my tryout with WWF, you know. J.R. Benson, his manager, and Ron Head, they know Jim Cornette, you know, so they used to send tapes of the Jim Moore stuff to Jim Cornette. And Vic Grimes told me that Cornette was talking on the phone and they wanted to get us a tryout. And I thought Vic's usually full of shit about most stuff, but sure enough, that's what got me the tryout, was the match with Vic, you know. So that's obviously my fondest memory. But there's a three-way match I had with Chris Cole and Donovan Morgan. I think we won 25 or 30 minutes, and then we did an additional 5. And then I think the match I had with Mike Modest. I had a couple good ones with Modest, but those matches there are the ones that stick out in my mind.
A lot of people probably forgot the crossbody off the balcony.
Oh yeah, the crossbody. Just thinking about different stuff we could do at Gym Wars, and not really trying. Like I said, the matches we were doing there, we weren't trying to outshine anybody. It was all for the effort of having good matches, and there wasn't that politicking bullshit as so much. But I just thought I saw the balcony up there. I thought it was cool. I actually did it twice. I did it once I forget who I did it on the first time. Or maybe I did it 3 times. I can't remember.
Was the first time spontaneous, or did we?
No, I planned on doing it
Yeah.
the first time. And I think when I came back from ECW, I did it. I think I hit the rope on the way down because you can't, crossbody, you're supposed to dive out, and the more you arch your body, the easier you float down. It was such an angle there that I had to come down like at an angle. I couldn't jump out and up because of the roof, so it was kind of scary in that point. But I mean, once the guy hit me, I mean, I was comfortable doing it.
You mentioned ECW. How did you get your entry into ECW?
Well, Spike, I didn't really get a chance to know Matt when he left. He always seemed like a cool guy. I love him to death. I get along with him great. He went out. I forget. He got his deal at ECW, and they had the idea for Spike Dudley. When he was in there, and he was in there pretty good, Mike sent tapes of his matches, and I was on the matches there with him. I don't think Taz liked Modest too much because Modest threw a lot of suplexes. You know, this is at least the story I heard. There's always 2 sides of the story, but that's at least what I heard. Taz threw a lot of suplexes. He didn't like that, but I didn't. Taz saw me, and they saw me and thought, okay, we can use that guy. You know, so that's kind of how the deal started from there.
The story on the internet that we heard is
If
that
it's on the internet, it must
gotta
be true.
So we're going to let you tell us the truth here, but it was just a review. You moved out there, were living in a trailer, was helping out with the ring crew, and you had a disagreement with Taz. Yeah,
the story was Taz says, you know, he doesn't like the stuff you do on the tape. You know, I think you should Paul Salt like to use you and offer you a spot here. The guy asked to get on the ring crew because the ring crew be extra money plus working. Taz was like, well, I don't know if you get on the ring crew, buddy. He goes, if you want to come out here, I'd like you to just to go to my school. I'm not going to charge you, but go to the school. I didn't mind doing that. Okay, you got to restart over. You got to do stuff. I have my dad's trailer, which is a really nice motorhome, and I towed my car. I may have cost a shitload of money, and if everyone's had one of the big motorhomes, those things are gas guzzlers. So I drove out there. I parked in front of the school, and the trailer was cool. You know, a lot of people was like, oh, he's living in a trailer. Man, things like a house. You know, had a bathroom, shower, had a satellite dish on there. It was a cool deal. I didn't have to pay rent. You know, what happened there at ECW? I've talked to Bubba about this. I get along great with Bubba and Taz. You know, if you asked them, they probably put me over because I've got. And the thing about Bubba and Taz is, I'll get into that in a second about how they were when they came up to WWF. What happened is that I think their mentality, just my thinking, their mentality is those guys built ECW. Taz and Bubba and those guys were there when ECW was gaining momentum, when they were drawing good people, and when I came in there, I think in their mind, they thought I had to pay dues like a beginner, like a fucking green boy. To me, it's like, okay, I've been working since '89. I don't feel like someone who's green. I feel, you know, I have to learn a lot. I felt that, but I think in their mind, they were going to treat me like one of their students and treat me like shit, and I couldn't do anything right. You know, it was constant test of doing stuff. I'll take the blame for a lot of stuff. I'll take the blame for the day before the pay-per-view. You know, this is, I think I was talking to Chris Chetty about this the other week when I seen him, is that I was helping the guys with the ring crew. And we got there, I think it was it November to remember? I don't remember the name of the pay-per-view. But everyone checked into the hotel, and they were going to set the ring up the next day. So all the boys are at the hotel, everybody's drinking, having a good time, you know. I was starting to get along with a lot of the guys. I was drinking, I started drinking, I got really drunk, you know. Well, all of a sudden, when I'm all, you know, drunk and happy, fucking Mikey comes in, he says, fucking Taz called, we gotta go set the ring up now. I think it was a rib because most of the guys, Danny Doring, and the guys working the ring crew, I think they probably said, let's fucking get them to set the ring up now because they know everybody's drinking and partying, so they think it's a rib. I passed out in the car on the way over there. All right. When I woke up, they already had the ring set up. So Mikey was pissed. Rightfully so. But in a sense, it's like, you know, I think those guys thought that I hadn't paid my dues enough to party with the boys. So they were pissed that and rightfully so, if you want to be pissed that I got drunk and I passed out, didn't set the ring up, that's fine. I got a dark match at the pay-per-view. It was myself and Paul Diamond, I think, against Spike and Chris Chetty. Taz was hot about that. He told me, you don't fucking deserve a match. You don't deserve a dark match. Other guys have been here longer than you. And in a sense, he's true. But in a sense, too, it's business. If Paul wanted to put me on the pay-per-view, that's Paul's call. But I just couldn't. I just knew when this shit was going on. and I couldn't do anything right. And I knew I had a tryout coming up. I knew even before I went to ECW that I had a tryout coming up in January, February in California. So in my mind, it's like, man, I'm just fucking keep shooting myself in the foot here for whatever reason, so I'm just going to leave. So I just left and went back to California.
Did you ever have any direct confrontation with Taz at all? Or was it just him basically telling you what you were doing wrong?
Just pretty much him telling me what I was doing wrong, and and a lot of yelling on his part. It was his place. Like I said, it's the way he ran things. Bubba put it over to me. I talked to Bubba a little bit about it. I've never really talked to Taz about it. That ECW is a place where people were on the same page with something, and I wasn't on the page with where they were going. That's how Bubba put it to me. That's fine. It's in the past. I don't got a problem with those guys now, and here's what I wanted to say about them. When I've worked them in the ring, nothing but professional. ECW is one way, WWF is another way. They never tried to stiff me in the ring, never tried to fucking beat the fuck out of me, never started no shit. It was very professional, and that's the past. I don't hold any grudges against that. I'm sure they don't either, because everything worked out in the long run, and everybody gets along.
I don't know if you were in ECW long enough to answer this question fairly, but how would you describe the ECW locker room that you had visited versus some of the others?
I wasn't there long enough to see what was going on. I worked 3 matches there. I worked Spike twice, and I worked Just Incredible once. Actually, Just Incredible was my first match in. He was really cool. So was Spike. I wasn't there long enough to get a feel for the guys there. The only people I talked to, I rode in the ring crew. I talked to Danny Doring's just fucking hilarious. So was Chris Jetty. And then there was I don't think Spike was doing the ring crew then. I'm not sure. But I never got a feel for most of the guys. I never really got to know anyone. I think I only went to the arena show, because they had it once a month. I only went there once. I didn't work. I just watched. But I was never there long enough to really say how the locker room was.
What'd you think of the arena?
I thought it was great. Here's something that, Stevie Richards was there when it started, when it was way back, I don't know what year, the early 90s, where you're not drawing shit to your shows, if they're free shows or whatever, and then you build that company, all the boys build that company up, and you reinvent the business. ECW takes a business, reinvents it with the way their TV shows are put together, to where they're selling that fucking arena out all the time, and they're getting, 4,000 or 5,000 people to pay-per-views, and they're drawing good at their house shows. So for those guys, for Tommy and all those guys to be a part of that is something special, and no one can ever take that away from them. The fact that they built that place and they reinvented the business, which in turn WWF or WWE took a lot of those ideas and used them with the attitude phase of the company.
You've been on the road with some of those guys now for 3 or 4 years. Do they still? Can you tell it's something they're really proud of?
You know what? No one really talks about it. You hear a lot of the ECW chants still around the house shows. Like the guys like Rhino or Tommy get in the ring. Well, that just goes to show you that even the fans, they appreciate what the guys did for the business, and they appreciate all the hard work. Because man, those guys just absolutely went balls out and killed each other. But that's why they built a company like that. And also, it was good story writing, and it was incredible shit. That can't be duplicated, but eventually the business always reinvents itself, so something else will come along that will reinvent the business.
How many times did you talk to Paul Lee when you were there?
I talked to Paul probably twice. Paul put over one of my matches with Spike. He said he really liked it. He put over my talent. So I was excited in the fact that, if the boss is happy, I'm doing something right. But then again, I was doing a lot of things wrong. If Taz or Bubba, those guys are pissed at me, so, kind of like it was, I don't know if it's Catch-22, I was kind of cutting my own throat up. I had the talent to compete there, but yet I wasn't doing stuff right in the back, so it's like, I can't fucking do anything here. So I knew I had my tryout, like I said, so I left.
We went back to California, and one of the funnier things that we had seen, you did an impression on Taz.
Let me tell you something, you ungrateful piece of crap.
You know what, I drove my motorhome, and if I would have drove my motorhome and took not Highway 40, I don't know if it's Highway 80. I think I took Highway 80. Highway 80 and 40 run all the way across the United States. I think I took Highway 80 like an idiot, and it was cold, and my trailer broke down near Reno. I would have made the Gym Wars show, because, man, I drove that thing nonstop, but I made the following one where I made my return there. I jumped off the balcony and everything, and it was exciting. I was excited to come back. The thing about the shoot interview is I didn't really know what Mike O'Donovan was going to do or going to say. It was pretty straightforward on things. I took a jab at ECW I think. I don't really mean it. It's just every time it was I was pissed off how things ended there, and I didn't think I should have been treated like one of their green students because I didn't sign up for the House of Hardcore. But then again, they don't have to respect me. You have to earn respect. So in their mind, I didn't earn it, so that's how things kind of work. But coming back to Gym Wars and being part of that, and then knowing I have my trial coming up was something I was looking forward to.
You mentioned you worked briefly in Mexico before you started with WWF.
Yeah, actually, no, it was when I started with WWF, and then I went down to Memphis, worked Memphis Power Pro, and I was down there, and they didn't really, Bruce Pritchard comes down one day and asked me if I want to go to Mexico, and I went down to Mexico for about 3.5 months, maybe 3 months, and the reason I was sent down there is because they had that show Super Astros, and they wanted to use me on the show. They wanted to, and it was, well, I think I forget the guys who were working the show. That was the basic of the idea. They wanted me to learn lucha, wanted me to learn Spanish. I don't even know any fucking Spanish. I lived down there 3 months. It's like, man, 3 TV channels, and I still don't know a word of Spanish down there. So, but it was, man, if anyone who knows who's been to Mexico or worked there, the fucking conditions are horrible. It's rotten. I hated it there. I hated being there for the fact of, here's a white boy down there, and when you're white down there, they're going to use you because you're bringing something no one else has. But in a sense, you're going to be taking a spot away from the luchadors who've been working down there 15-some years, and a lot of the guys. So there's a lot of resentment that I felt on some part towards some of the guys to me. I don't need to know Spanish to know the guys are talking shit about me in the locker room. So I was down there, and I didn't have a work visa. I just had I didn't have a passport. I didn't have my passport. Every time we go do shows, we always get stopped in the bus, and I got stopped one time, and they pulled me off the bus because I didn't have a passport. Well, I called up Bruce Pritchard and said, I don't have my passport here, and I told him the situation where some of the luchadors are being dickheads in the ring. You know, I mean, here they are, I'm getting stiffed by a lot of the guys. I mean, I'm getting stiffed harder than the rings were down there, and the rings are like fucking cement. So I just felt like my health would be in jeopardy staying there. I didn't feel comfortable in a foreign country with fucking dickheads stiffing me in the ring. So told that to Bruce. Bruce said, okay, we're going to have you come back. I think the original plan was to send me back to Power Pro, and then I was sitting home for a while. Then I got the call from the company. They wanted to start something on TV with me.
How did you get your tryout match with the WWF?
I got my tryout, like I said, with Jim Cornette saw tape of that. And like Vic Grimes was saying that Cornette was going to call me, and I didn't think Cornette's going to call because Vic's a fucking liar. You know, for the most part, he likes to exaggerate the truth. But sure enough, I get someone on my answering machine who sounded like Cornette. I called him back, and Cornette, so if you ever talk to Cornette, he's so high-strung, he's so excited. He was so excited on the phone, he couldn't wait till we get out there, California. He wanted to give me and Vic a tryout. He doesn't know when it's going to be, maybe January, February, but he definitely is going to get us a tryout. So what happened there is, I think it was the tryout. So around the time when the Mike Tyson was coming in, you know, we went in there. This actually was 2 days taping. We didn't get the tryout on the first day. We got the tryout on the second day. I think it might have been Fresno. And I've never seen this since I've been up in that company. We had free reign to do whatever the fuck we wanted to do in the tryout. All right? And we had, I think it was 7 minutes. And we knew we were going to have that time. So me and Vic were putting the match together prior to our trial coming up. We knew the guys up there. We watched TV up there, and we knew a lot of the moves we were going to do no one else does up there. So Vic's got so many damn moves, but you need a cruiserweight to take the moves because Vic himself, if someone's not bumping around for him, Vic looks like shit because he doesn't have any good heat and he doesn't wrestle that good. He could fall off stuff really good like an idiot, you know, not get hurt. But as far as for wrestling in the ring, he needs someone to help him along. So we went through and put the match together. We actually took out about 3 or 4 things. And our theory about putting the match together is, well, we'll pretty much throw the kitchen sink at them. And we'll do a lot of shit. Won't sell as much as we should. We'll try to tell a match with psychology, but a lot of devastating good shit. So where they can look at that, and at least they're going to tell us, you guys are going to have to slow down. You know, so we tried to put the match together with some form of psychology, but it was mostly a lot of high-risk shit. And actually, Vic took me and bumped me out of the ring took a chair, which no one ever does in a fucking dark match, sat me in the chair, got in the ring, and did the Liger flip over the top rope and just crushed the fucking chair. You know? And for anyone out there who thinks the chairs are fucking fake, I wish they fucking were. Because that fucking Vic, I don't know how he didn't get hurt or how the chair didn't fucking impale him in the ribs, but I've never seen a dark match like that they just give guys free reign to do whatever the fuck you want. So that's how it happened from there.
Did you get any advice before you went there for your tryout from anybody?
No, it was it was me and Vic and I think Modest and Donovan. We're at in Hayward at the Jim Morris place, and we're just thinking, what's the best way to go about this match? Well, I got to show them that you want to be fundamental on things and put stuff together. I think the advice is, and Vic was actually fighting it because Vic wanted to do more, and I thought, no, we're doing too fucking much, and what if we get cut on time? Okay, well, we can get 6-7 minutes. We don't know. A lot of times they'll cut guys on time, so you try to put the match together with an idea of showing them different moves that they've never seen before, because I know no one was ever doing these moves up there. I knew what was going on. So the advice was pretty much Mike, and I think Donovan was there too, and just watching, should we do this, does this make sense? Yeah, okay, it makes sense. And like I said, our theory was, the most they're going to tell us is, you got to cut some of that shit out and slow down,
Is that the feedback you got later?
We never got that feedback. The feedback, obviously, is go to Memphis and learn.
So they saw you one time and they gave you the
They saw us
Memphis
one
deal.
time. I think at the time we're the only two guys in the tryout to ever get a deal. The original deal of giving us developmentals was when they gave people developmentals like me or Vic or Sean Stasiak or A-Train, those guys, they had an idea that they could use each guy. They had intentions on using guys when they very first came up with developmental deals. Eventually down the road, they just kept signing guys to developmentals, and they didn't even use some of the guys, which is a shame, like Steve Bradley. I don't know how the fuck Steve Bradley never got a shot up there. Steve Bradley's so talented, but, I think the intentions on a lot of guys were just lost. But they sent us down to Memphis, and being in Memphis, the style of wrestling is different, but the theory is you have to learn how to do TV down there because you have to know if you have a 6-minute match, you got to listen to the referee. You have to know where the camera positioning is. That's the basic philosophy of going to Memphis, is to learn how to do a television program, plus learn from the other guys down there.
Not too many people have some very nice things to say about Memphis.
I like Memphis.
You did?
I'm a huge Memphis mark. I love Memphis. I love that whole style back there and things. I never got to wrestle at the Mid-South Coliseum, but I did get to wrestle at that studio and all that, so that was exciting being down there. I like Memphis down there. The only nerve-wracking part of Memphis is you don't know when you're going to get called up, or you don't know if they're going to fire you or cut you. So that's the nerve-wracking part about being down there. But I enjoyed it. I had a good time down there.
Travel wasn't too much?
No, the travel, we had our show. It was a live show. I think it was Saturday mornings. It was at 10 o'clock Saturday mornings. But then we had a casino show. And then we had like one other show during the week, and then you're pretty much free to do whatever you wanted. It was cheap to live down there. I liked it. I don't know why the other guys didn't like it. Maybe they don't like Memphis. I liked it.
Who did you travel with when you were in Memphis?
I had to live with Vic Grimes. That's why I can say whatever the hell I want about Vic. And living with Vic Grimes is like, man. Well, if you ever pass by a supermarket and you see the dumpsters out back and how filthy it is and how it smells, that's living with Vic Grimes. It's a disgusting experience. I'm glad we got separate rooms so I could have my own place, because living with Vic is a fucking challenge,
What? Tell me more about producing TV. There's some famous Lance Russell, Corey Macklin.
Yeah, they had Corey Macklin down there, and they had Dave Brown. They didn't have Lance Russell. Is Lance Russell still alive?
He is.
Boy, howdy, Lance Russell. I wish they would have had Lance Russell down there. My only regret about Memphis is I never got to work Jerry Lawler. I always wanted to work the fucking King. It was actually supposed to be a tag match, me and Vic against Bill Dundee and fucking Jerry Lawler. Some high school. I was so excited, but then that got cut because Dundee didn't make the show, so it just was Vic against Jerry Lawler. Memphis, like I said, Memphis was a good experience. What was the question again? Kind of rambled on.
Just some of the guys that were there, like Corey Macklin. If you had any
Corey Macklin was down there. He was cool as hell. Like I said, the guys that were down there was myself, Vic, A-Train, Mick Tierney, who had a developmental, a huge jacked up guy. Just he could never. I think Mick did that shoot fighting, and Mick could never translate it to the ring. He had an awesome look, and he had some decent charisma, but he just was too stiff in the ring, and he couldn't get the pro wrestling style. He never panned out. Sean Stasiak was down there, and I can go on about Sean. He's just talk with Sean for 5 minutes, and you'll never want to talk to him again. He's out of fucking control. You know, he means good, but he's just lost. He really is Planet Stasiak there. He's that's Sean. We did stuff too where we went up and worked for Danny Davis in Louisville. So we drove. Once a week was me and A-Train and Sean Stasiak. I had to ride in the car with Sean. That's another fucking nightmare. We drove from Memphis up to Louisville once a week. We did their television taping up there, the old Danny Davis Arena. And let me see. Actually, we did the Louisville Gardens, and then we did the television taping. So that was experience, learning and driving and doing that stuff. I like my Memphis experience. You know, I wish, obviously, if you know the future, you can enjoy it more. I would have been able to enjoy it more if I knew what was going to happen. So.
How were the fans different in that area of the country than anywhere else?
Well, there wasn't many fans who came to the show. I was amazed because going down there, we go to the TV studio, I think they're going to draw decent at some of these shows. And a few shows it did, but some shows, there's like 10 fucking people at the Armory, and you're looking around like, who's organizing this shit? You know? Actually, the biggest show they had was Jonesboro, Arkansas. I think they drew 1,300 or 1,400. It was Rage in the Cage. It was a cage match with a bunch of guys. I think it was, they put me and Vic together, and me and Vic were the tag champs, and we went against, was it Derek King? I forget who it was. But that was actually the most exciting show because it's the biggest crowd, and the crowd was totally into it. That was a lot of fun. I think the next time they ran, there was half the people there, and the next time they ran after that, there was like 50 people. You know, so the booking of the towns down there and the people, the fans, you know, are very friendly for the most part, but I guess for the most part also, there wasn't many people around, so you can't really judge the fans.
Where were you when you got your call up?
Where was I when I got my call up? I was sitting at home. Came back from Mexico. I thought I was going to go back to Memphis, or I thought I was going to lose my job, or they actual talked also about sending me to Mexico City. I wasn't too fond of that idea because, man, that place is such a shithole. But I got my call, Bruce Pritchard calls, and he says, well, we got this idea. You follow the show, obviously? I said, yeah. He goes, well, Bob Holly is doing this thing where he's the big shot, and he thinks he's 400 pounds. We want to bring you in as his cousin, and, you know, you think you're 400 pounds too. That's all they told me. Plus, they told me, dye your hair. That's the only thing they told me. So what I did is they flew me out to Buffalo, I think was the first place. They flew me out to Buffalo. I didn't do anything there. The next day, God, I can't remember the town. Was it? I had a dark match. I guess they wanted to see how I moved around in the ring and everything. I wrestled Kurt Angle because Kurt Angle was doing about maybe a year's worth of dark matches before he started on TV. So I worked Kurt Angle in a match. They were very happy with that. I was happy with the match. And then the next week, we were in Chicago, I think, the first night, and they were going to do it that night. Started up with Bob Holly, that they didn't, but the next day in Milwaukee, January 16th, 1999 is when I started. And like I said, the only direction they gave me is they handed me a sheet of a promo they want me to say. And you don't have to say promos verbatim. You just have to get the basic idea across. And Bob is if Bob's not on your side, you better fucking watch out, because Bob's somebody you want on your side. You know, Bob Holly's fucking great. And when I met Bob didn't like the fact, they didn't ask Bob if you want a cousin. They didn't run it by Bob. They just said, you're getting a cousin. And Bob's like, I don't know this fucking guy. And Bob was a little bit hot because here he is. He's finally getting some good momentum going where he's the big shot. He's finally starting to work some of the main guys. He's creating his own character, and they just want to strap him with a fucking cousin. So I can see why Bob was mad. So I have to earn Bob respect. I don't think Bob liked me too much when I came in. You know, I think he might have told me, you know, I don't know you and I don't like you, which Bob has every right to say because he's been in that company a long time. He's been there. Besides, I think him and Billy Gunn are the people who've been there the longest besides Undertaker, I think. You know, so Bob's paid his fucking dues there, so he had every right to say it, but I just had to earn Bob's respect. And it was actually Vince Russo who came up with the name Crash and the character behind it, you know, that you think you're this. But like I said, that's pretty much all they told me from there. Every way that I acted or how I did promos or the way I came across on TV was my idea. I thought it fit with it. Bob's a straight guy. I'm the spastic idiot. I'm the guy you should beat the fuck out of. You know, that's their idea too. You guys just can't get along. Right. So that's something I'm kind of proud of. That a lot of people, perceptionists, think, you know, for the most part too, on a lot of stuff, they give guys ideas and they tell guys, you guys should act like this and do like this and do like that because Vince has a vision and he wants to carry out that vision. But it was weird with me. It's kind of they just gave me a direction. It was kind of up to me to figure it out. You know, they kind of give you the ball and see if you could run with it. So I'm kind of proud of that character. That's something that I created, even though they had the main basic idea. It was me bouncing ideas off Bob, thinking of stuff. What can I bring to the table? And like I said before, I don't have to do high flying. What's going to get this over? Well, acting like this or doing this is going to get this over. Because the Hollies got over. It definitely wasn't. It wasn't our tag team wrestling that got us over because we didn't have a finishing move. We didn't have fancy tag team moves. I think the only tag team move we had was when if Bob whips one of the ropes and he holds them, I do like the Hart Foundation. I think that's the only move we actually had. Other than that, the shit that got us over is obviously the vignettes. And we and Bob had such good chemistry. You know, I was so happy that it just kind of worked, you know. A lot of it's luck and timing and just right place, right time, right situation, you know. And obviously, you have to have the mentality of, I'm not going out there to get over. I'm going out there to get Bob over in this, and what's the best way to do that?
How long did it take for Bob to, you know, finally accept you? And
Bob probably a good couple weeks. You know, I think also too Bob's going to accept me if it starts to work, obviously, because if it's working, it helps Bob out. You know, that's Bob's mentality. Actually, Bob on the very first day when we were there and we started doing stuff, and I think we fought up on the truck in Milwaukee outside. You know, I think we started fighting in the ring and then we fought outside, fought to the truck, and Bob gave me a compliment. He said, "Man, you're doing really good." I think Bob was surprised because obviously you don't know how someone is going to be when they come in. Bob didn't know who the fuck I was. He didn't know how I could wrestle, how my attitude was going to be. So I think by being humble and doing what Bob wants is the way to go. That's how I earn his respect. And then Bob sees me bumping or how I am and how it's coming across. And then probably a lot of the guys too saying, "Man, that's good shit, Bob." You know, I know Vince was really ecstatic on the first day. He thought it was funny shit. And if you can make Vince happy and get a comment out of him, that really means something because he's seen everything, you know. And for Vince to put it over to Bob saying, "It's good shit, Bob. It's really good. It's going to work." That made Bob excited because that's going to give him more TV time and going to put him in a better position.
If I was to ask you that question in January, if I would have said, "How long do you think this thing's going to last?" You know, being this cousin, what kind of timetable would you have put on it?
You know what's weird is when I'm up there and I'm in there the first couple weeks, we're not really getting reactions out of the crowd as baby faces or heels, or it's a big reaction because there's two cousins fighting and you're building something. But within the first couple weeks, Ed Ferrara and Vince Russo, this fucking shit's over. This shit is so over. And I can't see it because I'm in the situation. Plus, it's something new to me. I've never worked in front of these bigger crowds or worked for a huge company like this, or you're kind of thrust into everything. And when you're in something, you can't really see it. You know, but when you step outside, or like if you watch a TV show, you can actually see how something is working. I wouldn't have known. Probably, I guess, I'd like to say before, you know, Bob told me in the first couple weeks, he said, if this starts to get over, they're going to put the straps on us and give us a good run. You know, I think probably around that time when they were going to give us the straps is when it kind of sinks in, something's working here, because they wouldn't be doing that. They wouldn't see value in it. That's when it starts to sink in. Mm-hmm. You know, if you'd asked me in January, I couldn't have told you, you know, like I said, that's kind of where I see that.
How much foreknowledge did you have that you were winning the tag titles the first time?
I think Bob told me in the first or second week, because they obviously were telling Bob stuff they weren't telling me, rightfully so, because Bob's going to ask questions. Mm-hmm. Why is he with me? What's going on? Where the fuck are you going to go with this if it works? You know, it's probably the questions Bob was asking. They were giving him the answers. I'm just doing the company. I'll just do what you tell me. What do you want me to do? Cool, Bob beats me up? I don't care. On the subject of getting beat up and Bob Holly, I'll say this about Tough Enough and that fucking crybaby, Matt, what's his last name, Capuletti? The fucking balls of that guy to cry and whine and bitch and complain, and then to go on bite this and be kind of upset because Bob doesn't give you an apology. Bob Holly hit me 10 times harder on several occasions than Matt got hit in the ring. And if Matt's going to cry and bitch and complain, he should get the fuck out. You know, I would never change anything about how Bob acted towards me or how I had to pay my dues and earn respect, you know. And when Bob did do that stuff to me in the ring, I went in the back and I shook his hand and I thanked him. Whether I was hurting or not, it's not the point, because I don't like people bitch and complain when they're hurt, and the wrestling business doesn't have room for that. So the fact that there was such an uproar about Matt and poor old Matt, well, you know what? Welcome to the wrestling business, Matt. That's the way it is, you know. And if I'm sitting here, I don't think Bob Holly's beat anyone up worse than me, you know. Fuck, how's that fucking guy going to complain about shit? I'm sure he'll look back years later, if he sticks around the wrestling business, and he'll realize that he should have just taken that ass kicking and accepted and, you know, move on from there. He shouldn't feel that Bob owes him an apology, because Bob don't owe you shit, you know. And Bob will give as good as he gets, you know. He's not going to go out there to not fucking want you to whack him back. Bob likes that when you hit him back.
Can you give in that Bob was probably the stiffest with you of any other guy you worked with, or no?
You know what? Bob's stiff and sunk, but it doesn't bother me. You know, I don't sit there like, oh fuck, Bob's fucking hitting me. Just working APW and working down in Mexico and working that real stiff, snug style, it doesn't faze me in the ring. As long as someone's being safe with their shit, and if I'm walking out of the ring and I don't have anything broken and I'm not bleeding all over the place or something, then what the hell's the problem? You know? And if someone's gonna give it to you, give it back. You know, Bob is the way he is, and Bob wants you to give it back to him. You know, that's just the way that Bob is, and if you bitch and complain about stuff, he can fucking give it to you twice as hard, and rightfully so.
What about your memory of winning your first title in WWF?
Honestly, I knew Bob talked about it was coming, and to me, it's like, I didn't set out with the vision. My goal in wrestling wasn't to win a title. I don't particularly care. That's not my goal. I appreciate the positioning of they have enough faith in me to put a belt on me and push me in angles and issues because they think it works. That's never my agenda. Some agenda of the guys is I want to be world champion. That's cool. That wasn't my agenda. My agenda originally when I started wrestling, I just want to see if I could do it. That's all I cared. Well, here I am, you know, at 160-something pounds in 1989, you know. I don't got a snowball's chance in hell of making it to WWF in 1989. I just wanted to do it just because I was such a fan of it. You know, my agenda when I got to WWF is not to win a belt. Fuck, I don't think I'm going to win a belt up there or do that. I think I'm going to be on Super Astros because that's where they told me. That's my mentality. Plus, at the time, I mean, I'm a cruiserweight, you know. It's a big man's company. It always has been a big man's company. That's the way Vince runs it. But through telling people you're 400 pounds, now you can get away with, through sarcasm and comedy, now you can wrestle the big guys. It'll be believable that people can get into that. When we won the tag titles, honestly, part of me didn't want it because I feel I'm going to get heat from a lot of the guys because here's this new guy and who the fuck is he to get this spot? But then again, another part of me is like, well, they're giving me the ball and I'm running with it, and if it's working, I hope the guys aren't mad, you know. I personally don't like me to see guys who get the ball and they drop it all the time but are constantly shoved down people's throats. You know, that happens all the time. They keep putting guys on TV and it's not working. Well, the business is obviously fake in that point. They want to try to get things to work, so they'll repackage guys and push them over and over and over again. That part of me thought, well, if it's working, Bob's happy in a sense. I can't be really worried about if people are mad. And I think eventually when people got to know me, which they did, then I kind of earned my spot there. But originally I was like, how am I winning this belt? How are they putting me in this spot? It didn't seem real to me, you know.
I bet your run as a hardcore champion, because now everybody thinks of the hardcore belt. You're one of the top 2 or 3 names that come up.
Okay, one of the hardcore belt is I've never been a politicking person, you know. That's not me. I'll show up and what do you got for me? I'll do it. I'm not good if I was a better politician, I'd probably have a higher spot in the company, you know. But I'm not a backstabber. I'm pretty straightforward on things, and it's not my mentality to. What was the question again? Because I was kind of rambling on here.
We're just leading into the hardcore.
Hardcore thing came on is, I think they talked about it probably about maybe 3 weeks before it actually happened. One of the writers, I don't know, his name was Chris. He doesn't work there anymore. He had the idea for it, I think. and they want to do it with me. And he pitched the idea to me. He says, "What do you think? We'll defend the title 24/7." And he pitched the original idea. I thought it was funny because I like comedy, and that's me. It's sarcastic shit. Comedy always works. A lot of guys don't like to do comedy because a lot of guys like to remain strong in the ring, you know. A lot of guys like to get their shit in the ring, you know, their moves or their catchphrases or their stuff. Guys don't like to use comedy. There's very few people who like to do a lot of comedy. I don't know why, and I'll do it. I love doing it, and I think everybody loves to laugh at somebody. Fucking laugh at me, you know. Think about 24/7. They came up to me and they pitched it. I didn't think it was going to get over to the point where it did, but then when it's happening, what you're doing is you're reinventing the business and the aspect of you're taking a gimmick that's never been done before, and the philosophy of why it got over. I don't think, this is just me personally, I don't think too many guys could have got that angle over, because in order to do that angle, you cannot be an offensive wrestler. You have to get your ass handed to you on a nightly basis by everybody. And that's the kind of wrestler I am anyway. I'm not offensive minded. I'm very defensive. I like to sell. I'd rather just fucking sell the whole match and make a really good comeback, and I don't care if I do the job or go over. You can still get over. And I think that's the mentality and the mark of a very good babyface, is someone who just wants to sell. Obviously the best example of that's Hulk Hogan. Hulk doesn't do shit offensively. Besides the leg drop, Hulk just sells. That's all he does. But he's got a lot of charisma, one of the best of charisma, and he makes that comeback. Tommy Dreamer just fucking sells, you know? What does he do? He does a DDT, but Tommy fucking sells his ass off. Spike Dudley just sells. This is the mark of a good babyface, someone who can sell. You have to be very unselfish in that point, because that kind of person just wants to get the match over. They don't have anything particularly to do offensive. Even Jerry Lawler. Jerry Lawler just sells. Just sells so fucking good, but he's so believable when he makes that comeback. It don't matter whether he goes over or he doesn't. And myself too, I kind of pattern myself after these guys. Well, they just sell, and plus that was my mentality in my whole pretty much wrestling career. A lot of it because Shane Cody, when I started, just beat the fuck out of me, and I'll just accept the beating and beating. And no matter how hard Shane beat me, I come back for more, because you can't get me down. It's a mentality 24/7 is all I gotta do is sell. The concept of running away was mine, you know, because I didn't have a finisher. I didn't have a finisher or a catchphrase, but the 24/7 in the year 2000 was one of the most over things, and I think got some of the highest ratings in 2000. I'm most proud of that. Not that I'm, when sometimes people on the street, they come up and they say, "You're the greatest hardcore champion ever." I don't look at that as an ego thing. I'm very humbled by that, because it wasn't just me getting that over. It was everybody beating the fuck out of me, whether it was Taz or Perry Saturn or the Posse, Mean Street Posse. By allowing them to beat me up and get their shit in, I sell and I keep fighting. It gets everybody over. You know, I think I took that belt without just me, all the guys. We did something with that belt and that angle that's never been done in the history of wrestling, and you can't take that away. You know, a lot of people say, well, it's demeaning, and you know, you did so many title changes. Well, it doesn't matter. That's the whole point. It was comedy. It was exciting, and they actually kept that gimmick going for 2 years. But to be a part of that and to be chosen to do that the company had enough faith in me to run with that, and then shit just worked. And then to have a WrestleMania match based upon the fact that of my thinking and philosophy of how I think something should get over is something I always really cherish, you know? So it means a lot to me that was done, and you know, you can never take that away. And to come up with something in wrestling that's never been done before is almost fucking impossible today, you know?
Were most of the vignettes written by one person, or?
I never had any of that. The only idea I had for a vignette was we should go to a strip club. That was my idea. I thought it'd be great if all the fucking strippers could pile on and fucking everything. That's my perverted mind. But actually, they wrote some really good shit. All those guys wrote really good shit. The shit at the arcade was actually one take with the headbangers. Usually with a lot of vignettes, you got to do shit again. And the interesting part of that one is just one take, which was, if you look at that pre-tape, it's amazing because there was so much going on and shit could have got fucked up, or maybe the microphone was fucked up. So that was one take. And actually the majority of them were one take that people don't really know. So they had great shit. It just kept coming. It was something new. It was exciting because it's not necessarily the wrestling that gets over there. It's the vignettes and your character and your charisma that will take you. You don't have to be the greatest wrestler to get over there, and you don't have to be a high flyer and do shit. But if you've got charisma and you've got the other things you can bring to the table, you can get over.
Other than the arcade, what were some of your favorite ones?
I like the airport one. You know, actually the airport one, I think maybe it was Bruce Pritchard might have been responsible for out of the writing. I can never found out. I never was one to dig for questions. They just came to me and said, we got this idea this week. You know, it wasn't like they told me 3 weeks before, we're going to do this. It was like, I don't know till I get there. Right. Kind of like the WrestleMania match. I didn't know in WrestleMania that I was going over. I didn't care that I was going over. It didn't matter to me, but that's kind of funny. People think that you get a script a couple weeks ahead of time. Sometimes you don't know in the building till, you know, hours before the show because shit changes. Favorite one of mine, obviously that the one in the arcade with the headbangers one, it sticks out in my mind the most, but the airport one's good too. I thought we were all going to get arrested at the airport because you're not supposed to be in the baggage claim. They had to get clearance from Continental and everything. That one was pretty good.
You said you got clearance from Continental?
Yeah, they got clearance from the airport, and they got that section out because Continental had a couple baggage claims. It was at the Newark airport. And I actually almost fucking got my head taken off because I'm running down the baggage claim thing. It's a small thing. I know I'm really tall because I'm you know, obviously 6'4". No, I'm a midget. That's why. But actually, as I was running down the thing, and it was the first time I ran down there, and I went to duck under. Well, the ledge that was right there was really sharp, and I cut my hand pretty bad on that ledge. So thank God it was only one tape because I'm running and you gotta duck, and so I almost killed myself on that.
There was, you know, again, internet reports, so you can shoot them down, that the match at WrestleMania 2000 didn't go as planned.
Yeah, the match. What happened? And Timmy White felt fucking bad. You know, Timmy's a great guy. What happened was, the finish is supposed to be Taz gets the Taz mission on me. Bob Holly comes in with the glass pitcher, clocks us both in the head. We fall down. Bob's supposed to pin me 1, 2. The time runs out. Well, Timmy's listening on the earpiece, and you got the clock on the wall. And this is a very panicked feeling because it's a very precise finish to pull off. You know, I'm on the outside, and the APA is beating the fuck out of me. I know I have to get in the ring, so I'm looking at the clock, and it's 30 seconds, and I'm panicking. And actually, I probably came in the ring too soon because Taz had me in the Taz mission a long time. And it's good in one point, I'm surviving, but Taz makes everybody tap out with that, so it's like, is it taken away from the finish? No, but then Bob hits us, and then it was just a case of Timmy listening to them in here, and it was the clock was a second off. So I look back, should I have kicked out? Maybe, but that wasn't the design finish, you know. But I thought the match was good in the point because Bob hit me with that fan, and I got hardware on top of my head, but Pete Gas got it worse than I did. What I liked particularly about that match is that in all the hardcore matches, there's not a lot of color. But in this particular one, on the biggest show of the year, there's a lot of color, which I thought brought a lot to the match, makes a difference, you know.
How often do the finishes not go as planned? Is that something? Was that a rare event there? Or?
That's a rare event. You know, that's a rare event because you're going according to a clock. So it's obviously a rare event, but most finishes, unless somebody gets hurt, and I'm a subject to getting hurt, this is why wrestlers are the toughest bastards in sports or entertainment, you know? Not like those fucking baseball players. You get a fucking hangnail, and they gotta go on the DL and collect their fucking huge paycheck and sit out. You know, most of those motherfuckers aren't in shape anyway. I honestly defy any athlete or any entertainer to come fucking try to do this. The wrestling mentality, I don't care whether it's Bob or Hunter or any of those guys or Canyon, when you get hurt in the ring, it's just something that a wrestler has in him. You don't quit. You finish that match. That's like someone like Bob, when Kurt broke Bob's arm, or Canyon tore his ACL, or Hunter tore his quad, or any number of the guys. If you can get up, you'll get up and finish the match because that's a wrestler's mentality, to finish the match. And man, some of the injuries that guys have finished the matches with are just incredible to watch. But that's the difference between a pro wrestler and I think other athletes is pro wrestlers have a lot more heart. You know, I think a lot's gotten lost in some of these professional sports, that the contracts are so big for the NFL and this, you know, I think they lose sight of the fact that wrestlers are ones that you enjoy the work doing it. It's a win-win situation. We go out there and we love performing, and wrestlers rarely fucking take a night off, and I'm not going to do shit tonight, and I'm just going to fucking whatever. I think everyone, at least for me, I'll speak for me, I take pride. I don't take the night off. I don't go, I'm not going to do shit out there. I enjoy putting on a good performance, making people laugh. And I've gotten hurt in matches and knocked around, but I've continued to do the match. That's a wrestler's mentality, which separates us from any other athlete, you know, for the most part. There's obviously a few exceptions of some guys in the NFL or some people, besides the fucking baseball fuck, you know, I got a piece of dirt in my eye. I'm gonna roll over here to the fucking sidelines and grab a dip. You know, all right, buddy.
Were there any vignettes that in that hardcore period that you really didn't like, or you questioned, or didn't?
No, what the thing about the vignettes is we're always trying to stick in there. Me and Bob were always trying to stick in there. I was jerking off. I was masturbating. You know, if you look at any of the vignettes, I just thought it was funny shit. You know, Bob would always say, "Well, you got hair on your hands." It's just we had input on stuff. Obviously, on the vignettes, they have the main focus you're trying to get across. You know, you're obviously trying to tell a story for the match or the people you're working. So when they give you a vignette, it's up to me and Bob. Do we like what we're saying? Can we say this? You have input as far as to where you're going, because they want to know, well, do you think you like this? Would your character do this? You know, I hate that fucking line. Oh, my character wouldn't do that, man. I hate people who say that shit. Well, you're not your character. You're a fucking normal person. But some people believe they are who they are. But I had fun. All the vignettes, man, shit was just rolled in. Every week they had something different for us, and it was me and Bob bouncing off each other, and just works that work. And most of the shit, it's me and Bob thinking, if it's funny to us, it's got to be funny to other people. You know, that's how I looked at it.
How about just overall the 2000 King of the Ring tournament? You were in so many different matches.
Yeah, King of the Ring. There's another case to where the only thing I know going into King of the Ring is that they want to have me as the underdog in the tournament. You know, maybe you win a match. I didn't know that what I was going to be doing till the day I got there. I didn't know. I obviously knew about the hardcore evening gown match. I didn't know I was going to run in on that match. I didn't know that I was going to go over on Bull and wrestle Kurt. I didn't know that. So the matches I had with those guys were talked about on that particular day. It wasn't as planned out as people might think it is. But you know, I think the one of the moments that, like I said, I'm proud of, that gives me satisfaction, is if you watch that hardcore evening gown match, and when you watch when I go over and I get the belt back, everybody in the crowd erupts. That's when shit was really going, and people were still into it at that point, that people still liked that gimmick. Obviously, some of the people said, well, it's just comedy and they don't like it. If you listen to the shit on the internet, if they booked wrestling according to the internet, you wouldn't draw a fucking person. Nobody would come to watch your shit, you know? Case being, like, some people bury Rikishi on the internet. I read shit like they say, oh, Rikishi sucks, or Rikishi this, Rikishi that. Well, if you'd actually have an appreciation for how the guy moves around the ring, or how he sells, or his charisma that he has, you know, and the fact he's over. Why don't you watch other people when he comes out? They're into his shit. They're buying what he's selling. So what is he doing wrong? Wrestlers are kind of like, it's kind of like music. You know, you get into a band because you can relate to their lyrics, and some people, when they, like, you know, they start listening to Eminem. They're into Eminem, they can relate to it, they get that bonding going with it, and anybody else who likes it, but they don't like this certain thing, you know? Kind of wrestling too, it's kind of like the Grammys. Did you watch the Grammys this year? You don't watch the Grammy Awards? Did you watch the Grammys?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Okay, you know Nora Jones was nominated for 5, and she won 5. Mm-hmm. Nora Jones is nominated for 5 Grammys, and she wins all fucking 5. All right, this is mind-boggling to me. This is why the Grammys are a work too. Wrestling's kind of like the Grammy Awards. It's based on perception. I have to perceive that Brock Lesnar is the biggest killer in the company because the way he moves and does stuff, but the angles and issues that would put Brock in, the wrestling business is always based on perception. That's the fake part of it. I put this guy here, I let him go over, I let him have an issue, kind of like the Grammys. If Nora Jones is nominated for 5 and she wins 5, is she really that great? Well, the perception of the people's mind, if you look at her album sales the next week, they fucking kicked ass. But in actuality, Nora Jones is a boring singer. And I don't even hear her name mentioned anymore. Here's Nora Jones winning all these awards, and here's Eminem, or Michelle Branch, or Avril Lavigne. I don't know how the fuck Avril Lavigne got snubbed in the fucking Grammys, because she had 5 or 6 songs, always in the top 10, always playing. Nora Jones had 1 song that's played in the fucking elevator prop right now. Fly Away With Me. It's the most boring shit in the world. I don't know anything. But it's a case point, too. They sit there and they go, well, Nora Jones has a great voice. Such a great voice. Kind of like wrestling. Well, the guy's got a great look. Yeah, but he can't work for shit. Nah, it doesn't matter. We're just going to push him anyway. That's what wrestling's like. It's like the Grammys. It's fake. So I love that Grammy night when fucking Nora Jones is up there and she's all giddy like a kid, like she didn't know she was going to win. And there's Eminem and all these people sitting in the crowd going, you fucking bitch. Who the fuck are you blowing? That's what it looked like to me. I couldn't believe she swept the fucking Grammys. It was a crime, you know.
You follow a lot of entertainment?
I follow a lot of entertainment.
Who are some of your favorite singers?
Some of my favorite singers? Mm-hmm. Elvis is probably one of my favorite singers. I like pretty much all music. whatever I'm in the mood for, I like to listen. Entertainment-wise, you know, I think a lot of the boys are big movie buffs because you want to be entertained. You can appreciate good acting. I never understood on the entertainment thing how they'll have a daytime awards for soap operas, but they won't have an award show for wrestling. I think the Hollywood community looks at wrestling like the lowest form of acting in the world. Like, you guys are just fucking idiots. In actuality, the guys are really talented because they can go out and do a promo and control the crowd with what they want to do, you know. And someone like Rocky or fucking Austin or some of the guys who are really incredible at promos just have that crowd in the palm of their hands. It should be appreciated more, but wrestling's kind of looked at as like, you're not anywhere near the Hollywood league. You know, and plus wrestling's live. I like to see some of these other actors do some of the shit the wrestlers do. You got your promo that you got to do, and you're going on for 5 or 10 minutes, and then you got a match to do, and then you got other shit to remember. It's a ton of shit to remember, and then you got to improvise. You have to feel the crowd. That was something I was told years ago when I started. Eventually, you'll learn to feel the crowd, you know, and learning how to feel the crowd takes years and a lot of matches, what to do. And the guys who are the best at it are the guys who do the best promos and have some of the best matches, and they feel the crowd because they have that charisma and they have things, you know. But I like to be entertained. I like to watch good movies. I like good depressing dramas, or I like comedies, or just stupid shit. I mean, I like to be entertained just like anybody else.
So did they tell you, like, hey, I think this the hardcore, the 24/7 thing has had its run, let's move on? Or?
No, what they did is they just, I figured they figured they had its run with me. Raven did some good stuff. I think Raven had one of the best hardcore matches with Rhino. I don't know what pay-per-view was. It was actually a really, really good match. I had 2 good hardcore matches with Raven. Raven did some good shit with that. You know, I think each guy who had that hardcore belt, for the most part, took it and, you know, did stuff. Even Steve Blackman, when he got the thing, Steve started to get over in a different way. I think Steve was most over with Head Cheese. I loved Head Cheese. It was good stuff. You know, but yeah, they didn't. I guess they feel it's had its run. I had it long enough. They want to do something else with somebody. That was fine with me. You know, I don't have a problem with that.
You had to run with a lightweight title?
Yeah, it's actually, I think it was, which I'm pretty sure Dean Malenko, who had the light heavyweight belt, they weren't really doing anything with Dean. I think it was Dean, which to me is an honor. I think it was Dean's idea to drop the strap to me. You know, because obviously Dean is, he's a fucking legend. He's been everywhere. He's done everything. I've had some of my best matches in my career with Dean Malenko. You know, it's the biggest, one of the biggest things, disappointments of anything, to me at least. I'm sure Dean was disappointed too. It was WrestleMania 2001, because I wrestled Dean probably maybe 20 times, maybe 25 house shows and TV combined. And I think it was a shame that we never got to work that WrestleMania, because every title on WrestleMania in 2001 was defended. You know, we should have worked the Sunday Night Heat match, the live match, before. It was a shame because I know the match was good. I know Dean knows it was good too. It would have been a good way to kick the show off. I don't know why they didn't have us on the show. It just, that was a disappointment to me, because those just some of the best memories of matches and reactions of crowd. I think a couple of the matches, surprisingly, I think was one in Montreal where we sold out a house show, and the reactions to the false finishes with Dean, I've never had that with anybody. And it was just incredible stuff. And Dean, I learned more about just the little stuff in the ring working with Dean than anybody, because he's a veteran. He's been around. He has so much knowledge in his head, just of the little stuff. Do this, don't do that. You should be here on this point and not here on this point. The little stuff of someone, and someone like Dean, it's kind of like a veteran taking. He doesn't have to. Dean didn't have to do any of that shit that he did. But that just shows what a class act he is, to teach me in that way, because he had an appreciation. This guy's a good baby face. I could have a good program with him, do some good stuff with him. So that's one of my fondest memories, working with Dean. But obviously one of the biggest disappointments, not working a WrestleMania match, because I think it could have really added to that show.
And I know you're not allowed to say anything that's going to be detrimental to the company, but you were there for 4 years, so I think it's fair for you to answer some of these questions. What were some of the guys that you think that they never really tapped into the potential of?
The biggest crime in wrestling, there's a lot of them, you know. I think the biggest crime in wrestling was Master P and the No Limit Soldiers. I think they could have used a few of these masks to cash their checks. I couldn't believe WCW did that. That was a fucking abortion. I think the biggest misused talent, you know, a lot of people, man, people's perception of shit is so fucking weird. People, you read the internet, you have to take into consideration the source of what the internet. The internet, the people who write on the internet, for the most part, don't support our shows by buying the pay-per-views. They don't come out to the shows and buy merchandise. But the first ones are to bitch and complain about shit. I read shit in there like the thing that I talk about with Rikishi, or even Billy Gunn gets buried left and right. If you were a worker or been around this, you could appreciate the fucking fire Billy has as a babyface, how physical he is, and how fucking fast that guy bumps and feeds and does shit. It's incredible to watch Billy Gunn up there, and you don't have a true appreciation, I think, unless you're a wrestler. I think, obviously, in my mind, the biggest misused talent that I've seen was Tommy Dreamer. You know, people talk about, well, Jericho's being held back and he's not getting pushed. Jericho main evented a WrestleFucking-Mania. What more do you want from the guy? Even Jericho came out and said, I've done everything I wanted to do up there. There's nothing left to accomplish. Obviously, he has his own points, too. That's just what I think I read that in the interview. But how is Jericho being held back? He's always on TV. He's always involved in issues and angles. He's always going to be there. You know, someone like Tommy was never even given a fucking chance. And it's, to me, it's a fucking crying shame. Because Tommy was obviously one of the biggest focal points of ECW in building that company, in his writing, in being one of the bookers, and he was so fucking over as a babyface. And Tommy's one of my favorite guys to watch because he just sells so good. Tommy's one of the best guys at selling. He makes it so fucking believable. And to me, it's just, I don't understand how you could drop the fucking ball with Tommy. You know, you're really missing out when you don't use that guy. That's my opinion of it. And Tommy's such a well-liked guy by everybody. It's a shame, you know. There's money to be made there with Tommy. And the biggest thing, it gives me goosebumps to talk about it, when Tommy came out with the kendo stick in Philadelphia against Brock Lesnar. That's the kind of fucking, man, I just get chill bumps talking about, because Tommy's so fucking electric out there, and you believe him as a babyface when he comes out there and does that promo. It's kind of like the Jerry Lawler stuff. He's not coming at you with any gimmick or any bullshit. He's straightforward. He's gonna beat your fucking ass. You can beat Tommy to fucking death, but you cannot kill him off. And that's why Tommy was over in ECW, and I can't say it enough times. It's a shame they never used him how he should be. Maybe they will.
Were you on the plane that went to England?
Yes, I was on the plane. The plane ride out there, what I'll say about that is, wrestlers are like kids, big kids. You know, wrestlers are constantly ribbing each other and stuff. If you stick alcohol in a plane with wrestlers over an extended period of time, you're gonna get the boys being boys. Pretty much that's what I'll say about it. You know.
That's all you want to say about that?
That's all I'll say about that. You stick alcohol in a plane full of the boys, you're in for something.
What was it? Was that particular incident just overblown and or would you say that?
I think probably a lot of it's overblown. To tell you the truth, I mean, I've seen the stuff going on there, and boys are all having a good time and stuff. Man, you can't. A wrestler's favorite word is free, and when you got free liquor there, and you got time to kill, you know, there's a situation. It's kind of like if someone wins the lottery and you've got nothing to do, you're gonna find something to do with that money. If you stick the boys on the plane with a bunch of hard liquor and stuff, boys are gonna be the boys, you know. When people drink, they don't make the most rational decisions and stuff, you know, especially when you're drinking and you're having a good time and the flight's long and your clock inside your body's all fucked up because you went overseas and worked, and, you know, you're done. You got a day off or two to rest. You want to relax and have a drink, and if it's free, guys are going to drink, you know. And like I said, the perception of people, too, is, you know, I can't believe the guys do that if they're rowdy on the plane and they're being fucking stuff. Well, they're pro wrestlers, you know. We aren't choir boys. Yeah, we never, you know, I'd like to think, I don't consider myself a role model in any sense. I'm just an entertainer. I'm just there to entertain you. I wouldn't want you to emulate me, or I'm not your role model for anything. So I don't know if people were looking for that, or people were shocked or surprised that the boys would act like that. But like I said, they're going to be the boys, you know.
We just did an interview with Roddy Piper, and he talked a lot about the drugs and the alcohol and the abuse that guys put on their body. You have anything to talk about? I'm sure that subject's come up.
You know what, people, the reason people like these shoot interviews and the reason people are so into the internet is because that's the real stuff. Years ago, when the business wasn't as exposed as it is, they could accept the TV stuff. as that. But now people want the dirt behind the scenes because that's more interesting than stuff on TV. You know, thing about the drugs and the alcohol, that's, like I said, I don't really have a comment on that and stuff. People are entitled to do what they want. Like I said, the thing about the drinking, if guys are going to drink, if you make the decision to drink or do that stuff, that's your own decision. No one's forcing you to do that shit. And if you do something stupid while you're fucked up or do anything, you're a grown man or woman and you're responsible for your own decision. So.
But you wouldn't say there's like if someone didn't want to be involved in that.
No,
there's not enough peer pressure.
There's no peer pressure to do anything. You are a grown man or woman. You are employed by a company or whatever. You are responsible for what you do. Like that expression, you make your bed, you lie in it. No one's forcing anybody to do shit up there. You know, you're up there. The only thing you got to do is get in the ring and give your best effort and show up and do your job. You know, as far as for any drug, none of that shit's pushed. You know, everybody. It's no one. I've never seen peer pressure where guys are, oh yeah, you got to drink, you got to do this, you got to do that. I've never seen that shit, and you know.
What did you think about the invasion angle with WCW and ECW? A lot of people say it was blown.
Well, a lot of people say it's blown because it's hindsight. And a lot of people would sit there and, okay, what would you have done with it? You know? And when you ask people, well, I would have done this, it's easy when something doesn't work out like it should to look back and say, okay, they dropped the ball with it. They could have done, but man, I wouldn't have wanted that spot. I wouldn't have wanted Vince's spot or the writer spot to come up with how should we do this. Now we own WCW and ECW. What should we do? You know, it's a case of, it's a really hard decision. Do I think they did the wrong decision? I don't think they did. What else would you do differently? You know, I've always had the theory that they should have ECW. That's my theory because there was a market for ECW. If you own the name, you should let Tommy write the show or Paulie write the show, you know, and run it how it used to be run and give that as a training ground to developmental guys to come up. You know, there's a market for ECW. So obviously people still chant it. There's a market for an alternative. There's still that fan base that's dying for that out there. That's what I would have done if it was me. I would have just had ECW run. I wouldn't want to know what to do with WCW. I wouldn't want that decision. And people are always first say, well, I told you it wouldn't work like that. I told you it wouldn't do this. Well, most of the people saying that shit, you know, they're just armchair wrestling fans. They don't really get out there and do anything to contribute, so they just have their opinions of what to do. You know what, Vince has had some stuff that's worked really well, and he's had other stuff that hasn't worked well, but for the most part, you can't say he's a failure. He's a successful person. You know, you're going to have your ups and downs, but for the most part, he's a fucking billionaire. How are you a failure if you're a billionaire, you know?
A lot of people attribute the slump that WWE's in right now to some of the writers, maybe because they're bringing in writers that aren't as familiar with the history of wrestling or aren't old wrestlers themselves, and they're just outside writers. Mm-hmm. Do you put any faith into that?
Well, obviously, it's and Vince said it himself, the reason business is down, we're not giving the people what they want. I think Vince said that in interviews before. So if he's saying we're not giving the people what they want, well, they're writing the show. So obviously this is the part about wrestling where the business is fake to a point because it is a written show. So if the writing's not good, then the ratings aren't going to be good and the attendance won't be good. That's obvious. There's not a question about the talent. Yeah, like I said, you have the most talent here who can execute anything. From top to bottom, all the guys are harder workers and more athletic than they've ever been in the past. So therefore, to me, it's the obvious that you have to hook people with the writing, and they're not doing it. They could talk about that it's the economy, which it may be. You could talk about it, well, maybe it's this, maybe it's that, but obviously to me it's the writing. That's my opinion of it, that you're not hooking the people with the writing. You know, it's not the wrestlers because the wrestlers aren't going out there. You're not told what to do. Okay, I'm going to go do something completely different, because if you do something completely different than what you're told, you're fired. Right. You know, I can't go out there if I'm wrestling Steven Richards. I beat the fuck out of him for one. Nah, I love Stevie. If I'm wrestling Stevie and they want Stevie to go over, cool, Stevie's going over. You know, if you need me to do a promo, I do the promo because you're working for Vince. It's his way. If you don't want to do it his way, get the fuck out of the way. You know, so that's, to me at least. That's wrestling business has always been about that. It's about writing. Every decade, you reinvent yourself with the writing and the characters and the storylines. And when it's not there, the people aren't there.
So now you've just been hired back as a consultant for Vince, and he's telling you how to change the writing. What's your first instinct on how to take care of that?
Man, that's. If I'm hired back as a consultant, probably one, I wouldn't take the job because those guys, the hours the creative team put in, you probably can't even measure. You know, the stress that they have is a whole different ballgame than I would ever want to deal with. How would I? Geez, man. You know, I think honestly, I think the wrestlers, they'll never, you know, I won't say never. I think the wrestlers could write a better show than the current writing staff they have, you know. And that's not saying you can write better than Vince, you know, because Vince obviously has Brian Gerwitz and Dave Lagana and a few other writers helping him. But I'll say on record that the boys, I think pretty much any of the boys can write wrestling shows better than Brian Gerwitz or Dave Lagana, because if you wrestle and you have an appreciation for the history of this business and you're in the ring and you're in the trenches, it's kind of like that thing with, who was that guy? Warren Sapp got into an incident with a coach in the NFL last year, and he was going off on him, and he doesn't have any respect for him, because how can you respect someone who's never suited up in the aspect? I can't respect the head coach. You've never been in the field. You don't know. It's kind of like, I can respect the McMahons, all of them, because they all get in the fucking ring. Even Linda takes a fucking tombstone, for Christ. Man, that's scary, you know? I'm sure she was scared, but she did. All the McMahons get in the ring, you know? I can't respect the writers, per se, because they don't get in the ring, and they don't know. And I don't think, they may know the business, and I'm not directing it because I'm sure there's more elements than just Brian or Dave writing the show. So there's a lot of other obstacles and a lot of opinions in there. But per se, those particular two writers, I don't have respect for them because you never got in the ring. You never bumped once. Kind of like a lot of the people on the internet, like a Dave Meltzer or some of the guys. Man, you're just a fan, and don't think you're more than that. You know, you've never been in the ring. You never even took in a bump. You don't know what it's like to have a match. And per se, those guys couldn't tell me how to put a match together. Fucking Dave Meltzer couldn't put a match together to save his life. He may think he could do, okay, I've seen enough wrestling because Dave's been around the business long enough, but unless you can see the match in your head, unless you have match experience, you don't know. Dave Meltzer's somebody who said, I love bringing this up, Dave Meltzer said, when I started up in the company, in the first couple things, he said, well, that Crash Holly is going to have no shelf life. He's boring. Well, I thought I had a pretty good run up there for someone who he considered boring. You know, that just goes to show that even Dave, who thinks he knows everything, or a lot of the guys, you don't know. You know, so opinion of the writing is those particular two individuals. I don't really have much to say about them because if some of that writing is theirs, it really doesn't say much other than turn the fucking channel because that's what people are doing.
So is the environment the way you saw it? If you had an idea and you thought this was a great idea, was it an environment where you could go suggest?
I've had the only idea that I've ever politicked or pushed for that was my idea was Spike and Molly. That was my idea, the initial concept of Spike having a crush on Molly or vice versa, and then the Dudleys and the Hollys fight. That was my idea, which was good because they took that and they ran with it and they made it something to where it was an enjoyable segment. It lasted a long time. That's the idea that I've had. I've never really pushed too many ideas. They're open to ideas, but ideas for the writing team, for the most part, I guess it's like a wrestler. You take pride like in your match because a match is a story. There's a beginning, middle, and end. That's what every match is. You're trying to tell a story out there. So I wouldn't want anyone in particular to tell me how to wrestle a match. So I guess the sense of the writers is they have pride because they have their ideas of what they think is good. And if it's not their idea, it's not a good idea. Does that make sense? It's like if I go up to some of the writers and I pitch 10 ideas, they may not like them because they have their 10 that they think are better. And they might be better and they might work. But where's their credibility as far as for working? You know, I'm not sure who writes all the shows. You know, that's just my particular opinion of a couple of the writers up there.
I want to talk about, you're no longer with WWE, but you were in part of the Mattitude following, and then all of a sudden things ended. So I don't think you probably had a lot of foreknowledge.
Well, The thing about, I think, man, if I actually started to think, and that's where you get in trouble when you think. Thing about Matt and Shannon, and this is what I love about Matt. A lot of people, I'm sure Matt's talked about this, a lot of people used to do comparisons with Matt and Jeff as far as for being the rockers, and they called Matt the Marty Jannetty of the team, you know, meaning Jeff's like the fucking Shawn Michaels. Well, if you look at it now, where's Matt at? Matt's created a character. Matt's gotten awesome at promos. He's given something brand new that people never thought he had in him. You know, that's Matt's creation. I loved it when he came up with it. Man, he starts to take off, and then you stick Shannon with him, and you create this character, and it's good shit. Matt even talked about when Matt used to beat on Shannon, it's like a different version of me and Bob. You know, Matt's just a bitch, and he's taking abuse, and Matt's just on a fucking tirade. It's good shit. I liked it. The fact they told me, one of the writers says, I want to put you with them, I was so excited because I hadn't been doing anything really, and sometimes you gotta wait till you get the ball. So when they put us with it, I thought, there isn't a doubt in my mind it would have worked if you would have given us the TV time and the storylines and the angles. But I think we shouldn't have been called Team Attitude. I think we should have been called Team Icicle because we had no heat. We were the most heatless six-man team in the history of the business. We were a six-man tag team who never did a six-man tag match, ever. I don't think that's ever been done. You know, the concept's good originally, where Shannon Moore, the lackey, is leading the lackey crash. It's funny shit. We did one pre-tape for Velocity, which was all of our idea, and it was funny, entertaining shit, and the crowd act to it. They just never gave us the ball. It's quite obvious when you watch the show, they didn't do anything with this. You know, it was frustrating to me because I know that I could have, what do I have to do to help get Matt and Shannon over and bring this? Okay, I hold the book upside down. I act ridiculous and do shit to bring something to that. To me, it's a shame that it never got a fucking chance to take off because it could have been a good piece in the puzzle up there, you know. So I just want to think about that. But then again, that's the fake part about wrestling, is that unless somebody likes you or wants to use you, you don't go anywhere. And that's apparently obvious. You have to be liked and be put in the storylines and situations, and then once you're in them, can you get it over? That's how the wrestling business is. That's why talent sits in the back. It's not that they can't get the job done. They're not the new toy of the game. Kind of like, I'll use a music reference again. If I have 50 CDs, all right? I got 50 CDs, and I'm only listening to 3. I got 3 in my car. Maybe the Eminem one's sitting there on the shelf. Well, it's a good fucking CD, and everybody listens to it and likes it for the most part. But since I'm not into it and I don't feel like playing with that CD, I'm going to let it collect dust on the shelf. But now I'm bored with these couple of CDs. I'm going to shove these people off, and I'm going to grab the Eminem one and stick it in there now. That's what the wrestling business is like. It's like a CD or toy theory. Let's play with these toys now, and then when we're done with these toys, here's a new toy to play with. That's what the business is like. That's why people will complain on the internet, my guy's not getting pushed enough. Why are they holding this guy back? Why is this going on? Why is that going on? Well, that's how the business works. When somebody likes you, you will be used.
You had mentioned that you had just gotten signed to a tour with Noah. Can you talk about how that came about?
I'm pretty sure I'm still going with Noah. That it was set up through Mike Modest and Donovan Morgan. You know, I've known those guys forever. I'm really excited. I've never been to Japan, so obviously everything's subject to change. Right now, I'm pretty sure I'm going. It's going to be in August. It'll be something new for me because we're working that Japanese style or going over there and working with different guys. I'm really looking forward to going over there, especially the thing too, because I think watching a lot of the Japanese stuff, Japanese have a weird sense of humor for some of the goofy comedy and shit, and that shit's right up my alley. So to me, it's exciting because it's a new challenge. You know, it's something I haven't done before, so it's a different world to me.
You'd mentioned years ago when you were training, you'd watch a lot of the Japanese tapes. From
We'd watch. It was amazing. We'd watch stuff. We'd watch Misawa, or we'd watch the stuff, and to me, the way those guys sold was so realistic. You know, when guys sell in the United States, it's the matches 4 or 5 minutes on TV, and you can't sell as much as you'd like to because you have to have an action-packed match and you got to give here to here to here and you got to give people action. You can't grab a fucking arm bar for an hour. You know, you can't do certain things. But that Japanese style, it was just, I couldn't tell whether the guys are hurt or not. And I'm a worker. If you're working me and I think a guy's hurt in the ring by the way he's selling, that impresses me. You know, I like that slow, realistic style, like Misawa or I think it's Kawada or Kabashi. Some of those guys, it's incredible stuff. I watch that and I'm amazed at how they move and how they do stuff, and the different form of psychology over there is absolutely incredible to me. So I'm looking forward to trying to go over there.
How impersonal was your dismissal? We hear a lot of times you'll get a fax or someone will relay a message.
No, it wasn't. I liked the way that I was released. I don't have a problem with the company. You know, it wasn't anything. It's not that I didn't know it was coming. I knew it was coming. It's like they said on the company website that it was mutual. I knew it was coming. I wanted to pursue other interests. For the most part, that company to me became very confusing. I didn't understand where they were going and the direction the company was going in. And if I can't understand and I'm confused on a weekly basis, I don't want to be confused anymore with some of their ideas or what they're going and what they're doing. So I wanted to pursue other things. And that's why it was a mutual agreement. And I'm very happy with how they let me go and did stuff. And it was, I wouldn't ever rule out working there again, you know. But right now, I wouldn't go back and work there, you know. Because to me, I've been, I think, a lot happier since I've left there on a mental point. You know, if you can't, I knew when I started to tell myself that I had to go into work, when I began to call that place work in my mind, it was time to change things, you know. And I remember the last few weeks where I'd be getting up and going to the airport and thinking I got to go to work, and then it just dawned on me, man, I shouldn't be saying this is work, because it shouldn't be work to me. So I was very happy with how it was handled, how I was let go.
Yeah, talk about that, because, you know, a fan is going to say, wow, what a great job they got, you know, the wrestlers. Talk about the other side of things, how stressful it can be. And
people don't truly understand the perception of when you watch TV is that you see guys, and I can tell this because I work, I know when guys are rushed in the ring. I know when you're cut on time. You have a live show, a live pay-per-view, a live Raw. It's a very stressful situation. And I know, I've proposed this question. I said something on the internet years ago that fans, you couldn't tell me how to put a match together. If I have a match, and I have 7 minutes to do that match, and I'm wrestling Chris Benoit, and we get up to the gorilla position, which is a position right before you go out, and all of a sudden they say, guys, you got 5. Now me and Chris have to know what to cut the fuck out in order to put that match together. We have to see in our minds, what do we cut out? We have to talk. Maybe we don't get a chance to talk there. Maybe we have to talk in the ring and feel it in the ring. No fan can tell me how to do that, but a lot of fans will turn around and bury you and say, oh, fuck, that match sucked and missed this and missed that. Well, yeah, you can't tell the story you wanted to, but then maybe I have 5. Maybe the time I get to the ring, you guys got the 4. You're constantly cut on time. You're constant stress. There's no off-season in wrestling. You can't compare that stress with anything in the travel schedule and what you're doing. I don't hear anyone, for the most part, bitching about the travel. It's a part of the job. You got to do it, you know. Unless you've actually been in someone's shoes up there, you never really know. Kind of like when people constantly criticize Shaq. The motherfucker can't shoot a free throw, and they bury him. A lot of the times when people bury people, it's out of jealousy, you know? A lot of the people on the internet, I keep bringing up the internet because it's a focus of a lot of negativity.
that's who's buying the tape, please.
You know, you're entitled to say what you want on the internet. You can say whatever you want. You can come to the show and you can talk shit and you can be negative and do stuff. That's your right as a fan. You should have input as a fan, but you should never, I don't understand the people who, if you're constantly so negative on shit, why do they write their long reports again and again and again? If you don't like the show, turn the fucking channel or join the crew and do something to change it. You can never understand what the guys go through unless you walk through their shoes. You know, to know what it's like to go out there and to control the crowd because you're a storyteller out there. The best wrestlers are the best storytellers. They do the right things at the right time for the right reasons, you know? So it's, unless you've been involved, you really never know. I like watching Tough Enough when all the kids are really eager and they think it's so simple to do, and they bump them on the first day and they're like, oh my God, this hurts. You're fucking right, it hurts, you know? But what are you gonna do? Are you gonna complain or are you gonna move on, you know? So the stress, you can't, unless you're there. Actually, you probably get a better grip, at least I do, now that I'm away from there, and I can look at certain situations like, man, that was a fucking stressful time. But you either fold or you hold up to it.
You have a wife and a kid. How much harder does it make it, the traveling and the road
The
time?
wife's very understanding to it. You know, my daughter lives in California with her. You know, I was never married to her mother. Actually, I think her mother is the devil or Satan. Actually, I think her mother, she celebrates Halloween all year round because she rides a fucking broom to work. Personally, that's what I think Shannon does. But I mean, my daughter's fine. I try to keep her. She's 7. I don't like her watching the show for the most part. I don't think it's good for have your kids see your dad get beat up. I don't think they have a perception of what's going on. Plus, the content of that show is really not geared towards kids. I would not like my daughter watching someone fuck someone in a casket. You know, that's not something I don't think a kid should watch. That's more geared for the 20-something crowd. So I try to keep away. It's hard, but I mean, that's the life I've chosen. I don't regret the time that I've been away from her because it's what I've chosen to do with my life. I'd like to be with her more, but this is what I've chosen to do, so.
Well, if I was to say, ideally, what's the next 2 years hold for you? If you were calling the shots.
If I was calling the shots, I think TNA, personally, I think it could grow a lot of good legs and I don't know what's going on in the company. I'm not in the back room. I don't care to be in the back room to see what's going on. I'd fucking see Jeff Jarrett running that place. Man, I wouldn't want his job. He's got to wrestle and write the show and be involved. And Jeff was just watching how that company's run. Jeff's at the monitor watching the matches. Then he's going to match. Fuck, who wants his job, man? That's some stress. I think if they get a national TV deal, there's your competition for WWE. Because right now, I like the concept they had of charging people to watch every week, you know, see if we get them like that. I don't know if they're going for a national TV deal. That's my assuming, you know what happens when you assume. But I think if they do get one, if they don't do something, someone else will do something. Someone's going to give Vince competition. He knows that, you know, because there's a market to reinvent the business. So I'm only 31. I still see myself doing this for the next 2 years. I think I have something to offer the wrestling world. I think I enjoy making people laugh. I'm not going to try to intimidate you and say I'm going to kick your ass. I'm not that kind of wrestler. I'm not Benoit or Team Angle. But I'll Comedy Central your ass to death, and I'll make you laugh. And I think, if anything, some people don't, you know, like my character, but I think the majority does. And I think, if anything, I try to entertain you and make you laugh. I don't think I leave anyone with the impression of you got ripped off when you watch me because I was just doing ridiculous shit. I'll do a comedy piece, but I'll bust my ass in there too. So I think what the future holds for me, I think I just want to be as entertaining as I can. And when you have a rotten day at work or you fought with your wife or something, I hope you can turn the TV on, whether you buy TNA. I hope everybody buys TNA. When you buy TNA, I hope you watch, and I hope you, when you watch a match, you just say that fucking Mad Mikey was a fucking funny motherfucker. You know, because I think that's what I bring to the table, and I hope that's what I can bring that company. A funny story is, here's one I'll tell. Jerry Briscoe is real squeamish, and he throws up on sight at certain things. Like if I'm pretending like I throw up, Briscoe will throw up because he's just really grossed out. Chris Nowinski had a tumor removed on his cheek or some sort of thing removed where they took a big piece of meat out. And Chris Nowinski brought it to TV because some of the people wanted to see it at TV. I think maybe Regal or somebody wanted to see it. And yeah, it's just disgusting looking, you know. Looked like Vic Grimes' face, this thing. So they were going to rib Briscoe. He's up in the gorilla, and Briscoe runs the times, and he pays attention to the match. He gives the referee all the cues. I think they brought this thing up there, and they took it out. And they were throwing it at Briscoe, and I think he got sick and puked. So just watching those guys do that is just, they've gotten Briscoe a lot about puking, and that tumor thing was just, I might have puked on that one if they threw that shit at me. That was pretty fucking disgusting, but that was a good one to see. You know.
Well, give us your best closing here.
The best closing is you know, all my years, and I've been doing it almost 14 years. And much like a lot of guys who don't work, I'm not bitter at all about, that the company released me. I'm actually really happy. I look forward to the future because it's exciting and it's new. It's different, Like I said, the wrestling business, who knows what's going to happen in 2 or 3 years. 3 years ago, there was ECW and WWE. There was big companies. Who would ever think WCW would go out of business? You got a big company run by AOL and Ted Turner. I don't know what's going to happen in a couple years. I think it can be an exciting time with companies. I've heard good things about MLW. They have good production. They gain a little momentum. Something like TNA takes off with a national TV deal or whatever they got. They gain more momentum. I'm real excited about the future. I'm real excited about going to work for Noah. I think I still have something to offer the business. And like I said, most thing when you have a rotten day and you're fighting or something, if I can entertain you for that time you watch a match and the rest of the guys have, then I've done my job. I think this, in closing, I'll say this. I think Vince said it. One of the greatest things you can do besides saving a human life is to entertain people. And no matter what form of entertainment it is, we're really serving a good purpose to society because there's so much rotten shit that goes on in the world. If you could tune into wrestling and forget about your problems, or come to the show and forget about your problems, and we take your mind off things and you had a good time, then I've done my service to society and myself, that I've made you happy, and then I hope you come back and watch. And I hope that you can live vicariously through my character, because some people can identify with me because they're fucking goofballs too, so as long as I have that. There's actually it was OneWrestling.com, it was Matt Zilbert, I think his last name was. He wrote a really good column on me, and it was really touching to me because Matt hit on a lot of the points of why I do the things I do in the ring and how much he enjoyed it and how much he was going to miss me not being on Velocity or SmackDown. I think I was just on Velocity. I don't work SmackDown. I was just on Velocity. I think Funaki's the GM of Velocity. But that was actually really touching to see something positive on the internet, that he understood why I do the things I do in the ring, and he appreciated the kind of entertainer I was. So I wanted to thank him. That was a really touching article. So there's fans, and buy this DVD and make this man money. Mask. Actually, in closing here, I'd like to say that some of these masks will be used by some of the divas up there because they all look like get hit by a car. But that's just my opinion,
We thought the other closing was going to be the best one.
That's the closing. I think I'm going to wear some of these masks. Actually, get some of these masks for some of the girls Stevie Richards been with. He could use some of these masks. How about that? Anyways, I hope I didn't offend any divas out there, but I guess that's why they